The Austin Police Department is investigating a series of violent incidents. We strongly believe one suspect is responsible for all of the incidents.
6 people were reportedly killed during a multi-city massacre, and the suspect in connection is in custody this morning.
This deadly day for Central Texas started in the San Antonio area, and then the suspect would reportedly travel up to Austin and wreak havoc here.
This is a look at the several scenes CBS Austin reported from yesterday as we tried to keep up with all the developing information. What started off as several investigations into serious incidents throughout the day, we would later learn they're all connected.
We're live this morning where a deadly home invasion during the saga led up to an APD officer getting shot. We'll hear from Abigail Velez in just minutes. We're bringing you up to speed on everything that happened in less than a 24-hour period. Good morning. I'm John Carlos Estrada.
And I'm Allison Miller. 6 dead, several injured in this multi-city massacre. So here's what we know at this hour. Authorities believe yesterday's violent day started in the San Antonio area, where they uncovered a grisly scene inside a home, finding 2 middle-aged people whose bodies were, quote, wedged inside a very small room. Information in this situation is limited, but it's believed the suspect then went north towards Austin after killing those 2.
After 10:30 yesterday morning, Northeast Early College High School went on lockdown after an Austin ISD police officer was shot in the leg. We've learned the suspect is involved in the situation and would end up fleeing the scene. Classes and after-school activities have been canceled for the high school today. The officer who was shot is expected to be released from the hospital today.
Austin police say around noon, several people called 911 to report hearing gunshots on Shadywood Drive just east of 1st Street in South Austin. They say 2 possible victims were involved. APD says a man died at the scene. A woman was taken to the hospital where she died from her injuries. We spoke to a neighbor who says the 2 had just moved in.
He's barely in his 30s. He has a child, I think 1-year-old child, a young wife. All of a sudden, in a moment, somebody's life is completely, everybody's life is completely destroyed.
Right now, investigators are not sharing their identities.
The next incident reportedly happened just before 5 p.m. A male cyclist called 911 saying he'd been shot. This happened off of Slaughter Lane. We're told the cyclist had non-life-threatening injuries. The next incident of the day happened in Southwest Austin around 6:50 p.m.
911 responded to a burglary call on Austral Loop where they found a man in the backyard of the house. CBS Austin's Abigail Velez is there now.
Abigail, there was a gunfire exchange between the suspect and an Austin police officer.
JC, at about 6:50 last night, officers found the suspect in the backyard of a home just right behind me. The suspect immediately opened fire, and that's when the gunfire exchange began. The officer was shot, and the suspect was not. And while the officer was radioing in his injuries, the suspect was actually able to flee the scene. And just a few moments later, officers would then learn that the house was actually the scene of a fatal crime. Then at about 6:56 p.m., the injured officer asked for backup, and that's when Travis County EMS and the Austin Fire Department responded to the scene to provide medical assistance. The officer was taken to a nearby hospital, and luckily without any life-threatening injuries. But it was during this time that the suspect had driven off and away from the home. Then, almost 15 minutes later, after being chased by officers, the suspect crashed the car he was driving at the intersection of South Highway 45 and FM 1826 and was arrested. While that was all happening, back here at the Austral home, officers entered the house to do a welfare check of anyone inside, and that's when the house became a deadly crime scene.
2 apparent victims of the suspect were located inside the residence with fatal injuries and were pronounced deceased on scene. The male suspect, who was taken into custody, was transported to the Travis County Jail and is charged with capital murder.
Now, because this investigation is still in its very early stages, we don't have a description of the suspect. We don't even have a name. All we know is that the suspect is a male in his 30s. We also know he had a record with the law, including an outstanding assault with injury and family violence warrant. We also don't know right now any of the victims' correlation to the suspect.
Abigail, what have authorities said about possible additional charges to come?
Allison, more charges are pending for the suspect, and as we know per APD protocol, the body camera footage worn by officers last night will be released within the next 10 business days. But it is an ongoing investigation. We still have agencies arriving right now on the scene. It still is looking very active, but we'll be sure to keep you updated. Reporting live in Southwest Austin, Abigail Velez, CBS Austin News.
Yeah, a lot still to piece together. Thanks, Abigail. If you know anything in any of these situations, you are asked to contact the Austin Police Department. The number you see there on the screen is the one to call, 512-974-6840.
And stay with CBS Austin this morning. In 5 minutes, we'll have a live report from San Antonio where this all began. And we're keeping track of all these developing details over on our website, cbsaustin.com. We'll continue to follow this major story for you. Sophia.
Yeah, Ali and JC, you could see those flashing lights behind Abigail in her live shot. I did speak with Austin Police this morning to find out where they have active investigations underway that might trip you up as you're driving around out there. That location at Austral Loop is the only place where investigations are ongoing, so you want to avoid that. It's near the intersection of La Crosse Avenue and southbound Mopac in Southwest Austin. This is a live look at I-35 as you make your way northbound up towards Slaughter Lane. There's a crash reported on the service road at Slaughter, and then behind that we actually have reports of a stall in your center lane northbound at Onion Creek Parkway. With that, it is taking you 15 minutes to get from South SH 45 up to Riverside Drive. Avery.
Busier forecast ahead, especially as we get towards the weekend with our strong cold front on the way. Between now and Saturday, essentially, the good times keep rolling on. With some changes, not much today though. It's cold this morning, mid to upper 30s, if not the mid 40s, up and down I-35. On our way to another mostly sunny day with high temperatures in the mid to upper 60s. Though our first warning sign of that impending change is going to be some upper level cloud cover you see sweeping in from the southwest. It's Mother Nature saying, hey, we got a storm system on the way. I'll track this for you, let you know when that cold front arrives, the rain chance with it, and more importantly, the gusty winds and what that'll mean for cedar pollen. It's coming up.
A busy weather weekend. Thanks, Avery. 6:07 is your time. Nurses at Ascension Seton are set to go on strike this morning. What issues they're hoping to bring attention to.
Welcome back. It is 6:10 on this Wednesday morning. We have continuing coverage on yesterday's multi-city massacre.
As we've been reporting, authorities believe the deadly string of incidents all started in the San Antonio area. Christina De Leon with our sister station in San Antonio is live there now.
Christina, what do we know right now?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. We're learning this may have actually all started right here in San Antonio in Bexar County, when apparently Austin police just yesterday called the Bexar County Sheriff to check on a home where the suspect in the Austin shooting has ties. Now, when deputies got to the home, there was a lot of water coming from that home. That's when they went inside and found the bodies of two people. And we want to show you the video. This was all around from 10 o'clock last night at a home off of Port Royale. This is in far east Bexar County. This is in between Kirby and Converse, those two cities. Deputies say when they saw that water leaking from the home, they forced their way inside, and that's when they found the bodies. The man and woman were apparently wedged in a small room. The sheriff, Javier Salazar, believing the pair, possibly in their 50s, may have been shot, and the shots may have actually hit a pipe causing that leak, but they're not 100% sure. Now, he said neighbors did not hear anything in the area like gunshots, and he also talked to us about the scene inside that home. What he said was that the home was very well maintained, and that he's not sure of the root of this, what happened, but that no one deserved to die the way they believe they did, but he wouldn't go into specifics. The sheriff said that they believe that the Austin suspect committed the crime earlier in the day, and that he drove to Austin later in the day to commit the violent spree that he did in Austin. He said he did not know how they were related or how they even knew each other, what the ties were, but of course we hope to get more on this investigation and certainly bring it to you and bring it to your station in Austin as well, and share that information with you in Austin. Obviously, you guys have been going through a lot there, but it may have actually started here in Bexar County. Reporting live in San Antonio, I'm Christina De Leon. We will send it back to you.
All right, thanks, Christina. And as she said, it ended here in Austin at multiple locations. One active scene remains in southwest Austin, just west of Mopac on Austral Loop, which is north of La Crosse Avenue. So avoid that area altogether if you can until crews can get that wrapped up. We'll have another live report coming up here in about 15 minutes. There's a stall in North Austin on northbound Mopac at Enfield, also out west. A couple of hazards are getting in your way. One on West Highway 71 at Bee Caves Road, and another one north of there through Lakeway on FM 620, just south of Deba Drive. Watch out for that as you come across the hills and around the bend there. Avery.
Another chilly morning after a mild afternoon yesterday, especially cold towards the northern half of the state, largely centered around this surface circulation of high pressure. Watch what happens, though. We're still on the cool side of this pillow, so to speak, but slowly but surely our winds are going to switch out of the south and southeast. It's going to be a much warmer wind. Springtime warmth just a couple days away, so enjoy this nice chilly weather while it's here. 36 in Lano, that's a cold spot on our way to high temperatures, right where they should be in December. Around 68 in Austin, mid to upper 60s for all of central Texas. Really nice weather from coast to coast. Of course, changes are going to be quick hitting as we get closer to the weekend. I'll track that windy cold front, quick storm chance, just how cold it'll get behind it. It's coming up.
Welcome back. Your time now is 6:16 on this Wednesday. Happening today, Ascension Seton nurses are set to go on strike for the second time this year.
Yeah, they're protesting staffing conditions the National Nurses United Union says is creating unsafe conditions. The nurses were on strike in June. However, many say that they haven't seen any changes from the hospital administration. They're again pushing for more safer working conditions in a new union contract with Ascension Seton. One nurse who works in the neonatal intensive care unit says some nurses are working multiple days in a row that could lead to unsafe conditions.
You are so tired and mentally exhausted that sometimes you miss things.
The strike will begin with a walkout this morning at 7 a.m. and then the nurses will also be walk back in together when they're allowed back into the hospital on Sunday.
The Austin City Council is getting the word out about a major decision they have to make. On Thursday, they'll vote on the first phase of HOME, which stands for Home Options for Middle Income Empowerment. Essentially, it updates the city's development code to allow multiple homes on thousands of what are now single residence properties. But some supporters say the proposal would do more than just create new housing.
The HOME initiative can ensure that equitable housing opportunities are added in high opportunity areas in Austin, allowing residents to access better health, education, and employment prospects.
The first phase of HOME is still a work in progress. Council members say they'll consider a number of amendments before voting on the plan.
The head of the FBI is warning that the U.S. is facing an unprecedented level of terror threats amid the Israel-Hamas war.
An intelligence report says most likely primary targets could include churches, synagogues, and members of the Jewish community. A new joint bulletin from the Departments of Justice and Homeland Security says groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS will likely use the Israel-Hamas war to increase calls for violence here in the U.S. this holiday season. FBI Director Christopher Wray warned senators on Capitol Hill yesterday that terrorists may try to exploit the U.S. southern border and says the Bureau is working to identify and disrupt potential attacks.
I've never seen a time where all the threats, or so many of the threats, are all elevated, all at exactly the same time.
Wray also pressed senators to reauthorize a program that allows the U.S. government to collect, without a warrant, the communications of targeted foreigners outside the U.S. Lawmakers on both sides, however, have criticized the program following revelations that FBI analysts improperly searched the database for information about people tied to the January 6th Capitol riot and racial justice protests in 2020. That program is set to expire at the end of the year.
Investigators in Israel are working to determine the scope of sexual assaults the government says Hamas committed on October 7th. At a news conference, the Israeli Prime Minister accused women's rights and human rights organizations of ignoring victims suffering. More than 130 hostages are still being held in Gaza.
Tonight, the University of Alabama at Tuscaloosa will host the 4th Republican presidential debate. 4 contenders will take the stage: Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, former U.S. Ambassador Nikki Haley, entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. Former President Donald Trump plans to skip the debate again to attend a fundraiser in Florida.
There is a stall in the center lane of northbound I-35 at Onion Creek Parkway. Also, watch for a crash on the southbound I-35 service road at Slaughter Lane where it meets with South Congress. This is a look at your typical slowdown on southbound I-35 as you pass North SH-45. Right after you pass the exits approaching the flyover, you're going to see this stall off to the right-hand shoulder. Still pretty dark out there, and this is what that slowdown looks like for you. You're slow in that stretch pretty much between Highway 79 and Grand Avenue Parkway. Aside from the stall, not much else reported along the interstate in North Austin. There's a stall on the right shoulder of northbound Mopac at Enfield. If you're headed out of downtown Austin, plus watch for a hazard on West 71 at Bee Caves Road. Avery.
We've had some great weather this week, but you may have been motivated to not actually go outside, at least if you were someone that suffers from cedar pollen. Showed up on the slide the last couple of days for the first time this season. Very low counts, just 2 grains per cubic meter detected yesterday morning. But these are humble beginnings, unfortunately. You're here. There's a massive crescendo into much higher cedar pollen levels through the end of December and the first half of January. There's a good reason why that is the peak of the season. It's because this is the time of the year that we start getting more dry, windy cold fronts. Cedar trees take advantage of that. And off on the wings of the west coast of the United States, here comes the source of our next windy cold front set to arrive this weekend. It's going to take its time between now and later this week to get into the Rocky Mountains. A lot of snow falling there. For us, it's a quick rain chance. I'm still not sold on anything more than 20 to 30% coverage. That'll be a quick rain chance during the day on Saturday before the winds start howling out of the northwest. Temperatures drop by 20 degrees or more between Friday and Sunday. Also, a word of caution, there is still a severe weather threat from the Storm Prediction Center, but it's still slated to fall east of our area. I really think our rain chances and storm chances, for that matter, are lackluster. But this cold front will do most of its work with the winds and temperatures. Speaking of which, it's still cool this morning ahead of that stronger weekend cold front. 36 the temperature right now in Llano, always a cold spot on mornings like this. 44 in Austin, got some upper 30s for you for our friends east of I-35 from Bastrop to LaGrange. No matter where you're starting though, another sun-filled day. High temperatures in the mid to upper 60s. Going to start to notice some changes though. Probably not going to notice them actually. Southeasterly winds return today. Little upper level cloud cover also sharing from Mother Nature. The warning signs of impending change. The first big change you're going to start to notice is in the humidity department. Still feels nice through tomorrow morning, but thereafter it's going to be a steady climb in humidity east of this cold front. I mean, downright swampy for us, especially by Friday and Saturday. The only consequence of that is going to be more cloud cover. That's going to be noticeable as early as tomorrow morning, with clouds likely keeping a lid on our warming potential. Only have you in the 60s again for your Thursday. Friday is when things really become noticeable. So much humidity, in fact, that we may have a little drizzle first thing on Friday morning with temperatures in the 60s to start. That's warmer than average, and by the afternoon hours, we're knocking on the door of 80 degrees in a few spots. How about that for a little springtime warmth? Enjoy while it's here Friday under a mostly sunny sky, because Saturday is when things turn turbulent. Temperatures likely to fall during the day as these gusty winds swing in from northwest Texas. Again, this isn't going to be strong enough to prompt a wind advisory or anything, but this is enough to shake the trees, the pollen from the trees, and give inflatable Frosty in the front yard a run for his money. So make sure he's tied down along with all of your other loose outdoor belongings. That's kind of it with this storm system though. Big drop in temperatures, a lot of wind, but it's in and out of here like that. Heading into next week, that is when things could become more interesting, especially in terms of rainfall. May have a slower moving storm system coming our way from the desert southwest, and there's a chance, in fact, a pretty good chance that we end up with some good rainfall totals. Just one computer model shown here says through the next 10 days, about a ½ inch to an inch. Ooh, let's hope computer model number 2 is sniffing out something, because it says widespread multiple inches of rainfall to the tune of 5 or 6 inches through next week. We'll see. It's still too early to diagnose exact totals, but I love seeing that potential. Suffice it to say that we are looking at above average rain chances next week. This is the 2-week outlook, December 14th through the 20th. Let's hope. We need every drop we can get our hands on, because between now and next week, it is bone dry here with the exception of that little morning rain chance on Saturday. Much cooler though. We'll be as cold as the mid-30s with a light freeze in other spots on Monday.
Do you have Riz? If you've been around anyone under the age of 25 recently, chances are you've heard or been told whether or not you have Riz. It's the Oxford Word of the Year for 2023. Derived from the word charisma, Riz refers to a person's ability to attract a romantic partner through style, charm, or attractiveness. I feel like we all have Riz.
Okay. Yeah. Other contenders for the 2023 Word of the Year: prompt, which is the instruction given to an artificial intelligence program that influences the content it creates; situationship, which means a romantic partnership that's not considered to be formal or established; and lastly, Swiftie. We all know that one if you're a fan of Taylor Swift.
Avid fan.
Avid fan. Yes. Yeah.
This is a lot.
Riz. Can you use Riz in a sentence, though? I've asked this before.
Is this going to come up in a
challenge?
bee,
I think so. Yeah, it might.
Yeah.
Where did it originate?
I have to think about
No
the
one?
sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See?
My forecast was so good because I had that Riz. I don't know.
Yeah.
Swing and a miss. Don't put me on TikTok.
We might have to.
Time now 6:26 on your Wednesday. We continue our coverage this morning on a multi-city massacre where 6 people are reportedly killed, a suspect in custody.
CBS Austin's Abigail Velez will be live with the latest in Southwest Austin, where a shootout took place between the suspect and an officer.